Hi, welcome to the Tournament Center. I'm Zac Hill, and right here is Shahar Shenhar, level 8 Magic the Gathering Pro, one of our up-and-coming stars. And you're going to talk to us about Blue, White, Red Delver.
All right.
The last deck we covered was Jund, one of the staples of the format, a black, red, green deck with a lot of threats, a lot of advantage. This deck, we're also seeing a lot of it. Delvers, step links, just sort of an aggressive, powerful deck with a little bit of a late game. Can you tell us, why did you decide to play Delver today?
Okay, well, I originally played Delver in Standard, and I moved into this Delver deck in Modern because it's just an upgrade in the other Delver. You play Vapor Snag, and you play Mana Leak, and this one has Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix. Just an upgrade.
A little bit better than
more aggressive.
Slightly upside unsummon. All right, so let's take a look at some of the cards that make the deck work. If we can look at this first slide right here, and we'll see that in a second.
Should I move closer?
Now, the first card, obviously, is why the deck's called Delver. It's Delver of Secrets. You see, that, Step Links, Geist of St. Traps, Snapcaster Mage, really kind of the cards that win you the game, one of the packages that defines this deck. Why are these cards together so powerful?
Okay, this is the main core of the deck. Delver Secrets and Step Links are all the 1-drops in the deck. You play it on turn 1, and they're just very overpowered 1-drops that you play, and the best ones in this format, in my opinion. Delver Secrets, you obviously need to have a lot of spells to work with, so there's the Lightning Bolt, the Lightning Helix, the Serum Visions, all those cards. Geist of St. Trapt is a really, really powerful card, and it also attacks in a different way. You can't really remove it other than Liliana in this format. And it just attacks for 6, and also with all the burn spells, you can really just get in there and kill their blockers. So you just attack, you make a 4/4, and you take for 6. Snapcaster Mage just does everything you want it to. It mana leaks, flashes back mana leaks, it kills them with Path to Exile, it kills their Kitchen Finks, and then does it again with, Gifts Ungiven, for example. You redo it. With the Gifts Ungiven, you can also, you name the 4 cards, and then they have to choose one. If you choose one, you have a Snapcaster to still use it. With Serum Visions, you get deeper into your deck. Lightning Helix can also just save you because you gain life in the deck.
For sure.
Yeah, these are definitely the 16 most important cards in the deck.
Cool. So let's talk about some of the things that you do with the Snapcaster Mage on the next slide. You're saying that, and Mana Leak's a big one. We also just have some disruption. We just showed you some threats. The cards that you sort of cast, they can kill your opponent. Delver attacks for 3 on turn 2. Step Links oftentimes can attack for 4. But you're not just playing creatures in the deck. You have to interact with your opponent. So we've got 4 Mana Leak, obviously a counterspell, a pillar of the format, in addition to an Is It Charm and a single copy of Vendilion Click. How did we get to this mix of sort of disruptive cards?
Okay, so the Vendilion Click is really just good against Scapeshift and Storm. I mean, it doesn't have other aspects against Jund, like you can get rid of their Jund Charm when you're trying to combo with gifts, but it's really just like a really good card in where you want it to be, and it's like very mediocre when you don't want it to be, so I wanted it as a 1 of. The Is It Charm, I played originally a Faithless Looting before Return Ravnica came out, and I played that in Columbus in my main deck.
Sure.
And this seemed just like an upgrade because it does pretty much what you want it to, plus the counter target non-creature, which is a Spell Pierce, and then deal 2 damage, and you can do that with Snapcaster again. It's like another removal spell.
For sure.
Very, very versatile. The Mana Leaks are also very important. You can play Mana Leaks or Remand. They do very similar things.
Sure. And why do you like Mana Leak over Remand?
Well, Remand seems better in Storm decks or just combo decks because you want to draw a card in there and you want to get the card advantage. And Mana Leak, you don't really need the card advantage in this deck. You just want to get rid of their threats.
For sure.
Yeah.
And of course, we saw in Standard how powerful Snapcaster plus Mana Leak can be. You can just shut opponent out of the game.
And that's the reason I played this deck.
Cool. So these are some of the reactive cards that deal with specific threats. Let's look at more proactive answers. We see Lightning Bolt, Path to Exile, Lightning Helix. Now, you were talking about in Standard playing Vapor Snag. Obviously, these are a huge upgrade of that.
Just a little.
Yeah, you're right. Why do we want this exact blend of removal spells?
Well, you need the Lightning Bolt and the Lightning Helix as the burn spells of the deck because, like I said, Delver and Step Links are very, very aggressive cards.
Right.
And you get them very low, and you just want to burn them out sometimes. That's like one way to win. The Path to Exile is just D1, best removal spell in this format. It gets Goyf, it gets Kitchen Finks, they don't come back. Geralf's Messenger, doesn't come back. Gets bigger guys, you know, like Iona, Elishnorn, if they don't name white, obviously with Iona. Yeah, it's just very, very powerful and good removal spell. Just the best removal spell, I think.
Kill a guy, right?
Any guy. Also, you can, you know, you can attack with your step links and path your own guy in response to the removal spell. You do more damage. That's another thing you can do.
Sure.
The Lightning Helix is important also because you can burn and remove creatures like Lightning Bolt, but you can also gain life, which is important because you're fetching a lot and there's a lot of shock lands in the deck and you're just taking a lot of damage.
Right.
And a lot of time it's just a race, and Lightning Helix is very good at racing.
Yeah, one of the best cards printed in a race. Okay, and finally what ties these together, a card that doesn't really fit into any particular category. If we can take a look at the next slide, we have 4 Serum Visions. Is this here just because you need instants and sorceries for Delver, or are you actively excited to be playing this card?
I'm very unexcited playing this card. It's not a good card.
Okay.
It's just such a downgrade from Preordain and Ponder, but I mean, those are banned, so you know we're playing this one. It's pretty good with Delver secrets. The Scry 2 and draw card is, you know, it gets you deeper into the deck. It works with Snapcaster Mage, and yeah, it's just another spell for the Delver.
Okay, yeah, and you're playing cards that are so good that a kind of mild card that digs you to those is still
there's also
enough.
One of and Vendilion Click and Is a Charm, so that helps you dig into those if you need them.
Of course. All right, so let's take a look at how we actually cast all of these spells. If we can look at the mana base. Now, this is something y'all are going to see in basically every deck in this format. We've got 4 Scalding Tarn, Arid Mesa, Misty Rainforest, and Marsh Flats. You might be asking yourself, okay, what do you get with those? You're not playing, you know, a black-white deck. Let's take a look at the next slide. Clearly, you're going to be looking for these guys right here. Hallowed Fountain, Steam Vents, Sacred Foundry, and a Watery Grave, which is a little bit different. The Fetch Land package, a pillar of the modern format. Do you think your deck sort of makes use of it better than some of the other decks, or is it just something you have to do to cast your spells?
I definitely think the Fetch Lands are very important in my deck. Maybe not more than other decks, but still maybe just the same amount, or I'm not really sure about that question.
You've got Lightning Bolt, Step Links, and Delver all cost a single mana of 3 different colors, so you want the lands to come into play untapped on the first turn.
Yeah, and also Scalding Tarn, Arid Mesa, Marsh Flats, and Misty is very good with landfall because you get to trigger it twice.
Right, so you play the land, Step Links gets bigger, then you sack it, Step Links gets even bigger after that.
4/5 on turn 2.
So tell us, you're playing a red, white, and blue deck. Why is this Watery Grave here? Will we see that a little bit later?
Yeah, well, the Watery Grave, you guys are going to see there's an Unbury Rites in the sideboard. And, well, you know, you want to cast it when you draw it. So there's that.
Because you have all the sacrifice lands, you can tutor that up if you draw the Unburial Rites. So let's finish up the lands, all right, with the next slide. Eiganjo Castle, not a card that, you know, it was a powerhouse when it was legal and standard. Why is this card in the deck?
Well, this card is just for guys to Saint Trapped.
Sure.
You get to attack with it, and, you know, they want to block, and you prevent the damage, so a lot of times they just can't attack. You just get in there for 6, or they can't block, I mean. So, yeah, it's just pretty much that, and the mana base can afford the Watery Grave and the castle. So that's why they're in there.
All right, so let's, and obviously you've got 1 mountain, 1 plains, 1 island, just to
get them so you don't take the damage.
All right, so let's take a look at this sideboard. You've heard, Shahar mentioned a little bit about this earlier. 4 Gifts Ungiven, 1 Unburial Rites. Now the rest of the deck costs 1 and 2 mana. We see a 9 mana Iona Shield of Emeria and a 7 mana Elishnorn. And tell us, what on earth is going on with this package?
All right, so ignore the 3 big guys in a second and just look at the Gifts Ungiven. It says search your library for 4 cards with different names. So I'm going to get Unburial Rites and Iona, for example.
That's not 4 cards.
Right, so that's only 2 cards. And it says search your library for 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Yeah. You can fail to choose 2 other cards. And then target opponent chooses 2 of those cards. So pretty much they have to choose the 2 cards that I chose, and they put them in the graveyard. So what that does is it puts Unburial Rites and Iona in my graveyard. And then I just untap and then flashback Unburial Rites to choose Iona or Elishnorn.
Cool. So it allows the deck to go from a totally different angle, really innovative sideboard plan. Let's take a look at the rest of the sideboard cards. We've got an additional copy of Vendilion Click, just, you know, a redundant card from the main deck. We can look at the rest of the sideboard. We see Disenchant, Artifacts and Enchantments, Pyroclasm for little guys, Sowing Salt for non-basic lands, and Spell Pierce probably against, what's Spell Pierce for?
Spell Pierce against Storm, Jund, also the Liliana and Jund Charm.
Sure.
It's also good against Scape Shift, and it's just good against like
Cool.
non-creature decks.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Shahar.
Yeah.
We've seen a blue-white-red Delver deck, Shahar Shenhar, level 8 Pro. Let's stay tuned for more Pro Tour Return to Ravnica.